After the last international break of the season, or the year at least, Celtic are back, and so are we, as myself and Brydo bring you the countdown to kick-off ahead of Celtic v Hearts on a Saturday night, no less, 7:45 kick-off through at Tynecastle. This is Tino, joined here, as I say, by Brydo. Brydo, initial response ahead of the Monday night's game?
Good evening, mate. I'm just looking forward to getting the Celtic games back. Scotland games, they done well. I heard you talk about that in the show on Monday or Tuesday, and it's just get Celtic back into your life and look forward to the weekend. I'm really looking forward to the game. I'm excited the fact it's a Saturday night kickoff. I'm all over that. I finish work at 1 o'clock on a Saturday, so I'm making all sorts of plans if I'm not going. So if I'm not going, I've got some cracking second prizes. I'm starting early. So I'm just looking forward to it. I think it'll be a tough game. I think Hearts, I've seen a few of their games, and obviously we'll touch on that through the show tonight. But yeah, just excited to get a game under the lights at Tynecastle. It's always a good atmosphere.
Definitely, and we talk about the break comes at a good time, is it a bad time, is it a whatever time? But I think it's good form that Celtic were in. A couple of wee niggles and obviously a kind of sticky performance just before the break. Probably wasn't a bad idea just to kind of rest and reset, because it's a relentless run-in, Brydo, now. In terms of the count-up, there's 10 games, including this one, between now and the turn of the year, and then a whole raft of fixtures early into 2025. But that's what it's all about. As fans, that's what we enjoy. I think players enjoy that as well. There's less training involved at this time of year now. It's mostly game, recovery, midweek, recovery, game, etc., etc. And I think that's what players look forward to. And I think it's just quite an exciting phase of the campaign that we go into at the moment. The big news today, Brydo, and something that's been rumoured for a while, is Alistair Johnston signing a new long-term deal. So he'll now be at the club until 2029, unless a big money offer comes in for him. How big is that news, and how important has he become to this Celtic side?
I think it's massive news, because he has been putting performances in, not just for Celtic, but on an international level, for a good wee bit now. So we got him off the back of the World Cup. Just after that, the rumours were they would kind of signed him when he was playing for Canada and he was performing pretty well in that too, in a decent side. So the fact that we're keeping hold of our international level players is one thing. The fact that I think most Celtic fans will agree, he kind of gets it. I think he gets it. He's puts his heart and soul into the game. He loves the physical side of the game that suits the domestic side, but he's also showed composure and quality and reliability in the biggest games in the European stage as well. So I think that's massive news. And, like you said, either way, and we know that our players, eventually, there's maybe a time frame and then they move on. If that is the case, we've got him signed up. He deserves his new contract. He deserves a good whack of an increase in his wages, and puts him hopefully kind of in the top bracket of players that we've got, or near that top bracket. So it's more than well deserved. But his output on the park is what we see every week, and that's ultimately what we care about. And that is so consistent. So I'm delighted with that. It's great news to start this kind of, like you said, this run of games and fixtures to tie that up.
Yeah, it's big news, all right. You weren't on the show on Monday, but myself, Paddy, Miff and James had the debate. Is Alistair Johnston certainly up there, or where does he rank in terms of the right backs that Celtic have had since the turn of the century? Now, you've got guys like Jackie McNamara in there, Tom Boyd just squeezes in, Didi Agat was in some people's lists, Jeremy Frimpong. You can get down the Jeremy Toljan, Moritz Bauer road if you like as well, but a lot of players in there and a lot of quality players amongst them. Where does he rank for you, Brydo? Is he a kind of top three, for example, maybe even higher?
Yeah, no, I would say top three definitely, and then you kind of, I think he's probably in most Celtic fans' top three, and then you kind of have that debate about the three that you pick. For me, Didi Agat was something at that time. He was a striker at Hibs, and then next thing you know, we've got him. I just thought the impact that he had, it was almost like with that speed he had and his ability to track back. It was almost kind of the effect that Daizen Maida has with his kind of attributes for Celtic now. in a slightly different way. But and McNamara, just that kind of homegrown player, you know, again, so reliable, good quality, great partnership with Simon Donnelly. So those would be the three I would say. I'd be looking at that. Frimpong, when we got him, again, some folk could argue that, but he probably wasn't there long enough and he didn't do it consistently well enough for us. But bigger teams could obviously see that speed he had and they could fit into a certain style of team. It didn't always suit us in the Scottish League, whereas I think Johnston is made for it, to be honest with you. So he definitely, just how he came in, when he came in as well, you know, under Ange, after Juranovic, we felt that we maybe had a player like Juranovic that we wanted for a long time. And then quite quickly he starts making a bit of noise about wanting to get a bigger move. We all agreed because of his age and stuff, that's fine. But Johnston just came in, and I think similar to other players that we've kind of moved on and then replaced, we've kind of just spent, you know what, that's cool. We can, we're doing fine, and we can maybe go on to even bigger and better things. And I think Johnston's an upgrade on most of the right backs we've had for a reasonably long time.
Yeah, and I think most agree, as much as we were fond of Josip Juranovic and what he'd done in a Celtic shirt, we were worried when it became clear he was going to move on. And then Alistair Johnston comes in and makes his debut at Ibrox, no less, if I've got that right, and comes through it unscathed. And it just let you know everything you needed to know about him as a character. I think he's a brilliant asset within this Celtic side. And I think he's definitely a future captain. He's taken the armband now a couple of times in the absence of Calmack and CCV. As and when Callum McGregor decides to hang up his boots, if Alistair Johnston's still at the club, he's got to be a serious shout. So it's great news. Brydo, just a bit of an update. So if you're currently listening to the Celtic Exchange podcast and want to win a Celtic shirt, either home, away or third kit between now and next weekend, then all you have to do is visit the celticexchange.supercast.com and sign up for any of the Celtic Exchange Plus programmes there from just $150 a month, and you'll be automatically put into the draw to win that shirt. Likewise, if you're watching on YouTube, and there's a couple of changes we've made there, if you want to comment on these live pre and post match shows like Stephen Morrison's done and like Gypsy King has just done, you need to be a member. And again, there's plans there starting at just $1.99 a month, and that allows you to get early access to some of the shows we do, as well as the ability to comment on these shows. Just on that, Brydo, Gypsy King says that this is going to be a hard game tomorrow. Hearts are improving under their new manager, and that's Neil Critchley. What do you think? Have we got a tough one in store?
Yeah, I think we do. I watched them in their European games and I was pretty impressed. They didn't necessarily get the result that their play deserved. Just came up short a wee bit. What doesn't scare me really is their ability in the final third. So they played Rangers at Ibrox just before the wee break there. And they move the ball really well. They keep possession. But they're just in that final third missing something. So, like, for example, the way Vargas has actually got a lot of pace, he makes good runs in behind. But when he does get in there, he just can't find the net. Shankland, I've openly said that if Lawrence Shankland is Scotland's number 9, then we need to be looking at ourselves in a serious problem, because physically and he's overweight. I don't think he's that level of a striker, but he is dangerous and he's got a reasonably good record against us. So I think as a team though, they've definitely looked like they've got progress there. I don't think they should be worried at all. I think they'll get a decent run at some point. The manager looks like he knows what he's doing. He's fairly calm, he talks reasonably well, and however they've went and found that manager, I don't know, they've plucked him from somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
I think he talks well, and I think he's got his team playing reasonable football. They're just not, that killer instinct's not there. They've outplayed teams and lost the games, which is comparable to Aberdeen, who've actually not played well and then managed to go over the line and win their games. And Hearts and Aberdeen are two teams I would always kind of be comparing with the budgets and the size of clubs. So their season's just not necessarily going for them. I think the European football has been a distraction. But I think they'll probably come good. But on Saturday night, I think it'll be a tough game. Games under the lights, it's like always throws something up. But I just think, I was talking to a Hearts fan, obviously my business is in Edinburgh, and it's not far from Tynecastle. So a lot of Hearts fans were talking to me today, and what they were saying is they're not overly confident, but they are pretty pleased with how their manager's conducting himself and what he's getting from the players. and in agreement with most discussions all day today, Celtic are just levels above. And I think if Celtic performed to close to even anywhere close to their top level, I don't think we should have anything to worry about, but it'll not be easy for sure.
Yeah, I think that's all pretty accurate. And you talk about Neil Critchley, he seems to have, albeit he's not quite getting the results, he seems to have steadied the ship and just made some notable improvements. In terms of how he came to be, the suggestion is that Tony Bloom, who's the big investor at Brighton, has given Hearts a loan of his algorithm. However that works in the modern game, I don't know. But they've ran the database and it's produced a guy like Neil Critchley. Tony Bloom, I think, is rumoured to be investing £10 million in Hearts. And off they go with this new manager who spent time, I think, as an assistant to Steven Gerrard and spent time coaching under-19s and what have you. Who knows? Might turn out to be an inspired choice. Might go the opposite way. We'll need to wait and see. In terms of their league position, though, everyone knows they're languishing at this moment in time around the bottom. They're second bottom. Hibs are the only team propping them up. Hearts are 1 point ahead on 9. They've only had 2 wins, Brydo. 2 wins all season. This is match day 12 for us. 2 wins and 3 draws. And it doesn't matter the talented players you've got. They've got some good players in their squad that you've mentioned Shankland and others there. But at some point very soon, you need to start turning defeats into draws and draws into wins, or you end up just languishing. And as much as Celtic are in a very healthy, buoyant position just now, and winning becomes a habit, losing games also becomes a habit. And Hearts and Hibs will need to shake it off pretty quickly if they're going to avoid at least bottom 6, if not a lot worse.
Yeah, you're right. I still think for this new manager, it is early for him. It's not 12 games for him. Naismith was given the benefit of the doubt for a reasonable period. Sometimes it just doesn't work for the manager who previously was successful, and he gets his jotters and off he goes. New guy comes in and they normally get the new manager bounce. Like I said, I think speaking to the Hearts fans, they're accepting of the performances, and I think they're almost just it's coming for them. It's not far away. The games that I've seen, I'd have to agree. I thought they outplayed Rangers at Ibrox of all places. They hit the post early doors in the second half. A couple of things didn't go their way. An early goal for Rangers, but they more than competed. And we all know that's not. I mean, I know they're not great at the minute, Rangers, but it's still, we don't normally see a Hearts team go there and control the game for vast amounts of it. So he's obviously got them playing a certain way. I don't think Hearts have it no issue. Hearts will finish in the top 6. I don't think they'll have any issues. I think they'll go on a run and they'll be absolutely fine. The European football, like I said, though, it's taken its toll. It's no surprise that Kilmarnock, when they were playing in it, couldn't cope. They were at the bottom of the league. Hearts, Aberdeen last year. It's just I don't think the clubs in Scotland have got, with the exception of Celtic, you can maybe class Rangers in that a wee bit, don't have that depth of squad to deal with the intensity of the games, the magnitude of the games, Thursday, then Sunday, then Thursday and Sunday, or Wednesday and Saturday. They just seem to struggle with it. And whether it's nervous energy, physical energy, injuries, whatever it may be, they just struggle a bit. So I think that tells more of a story about it. And it's happening to too many teams for it to not be a coincidence. So therefore, there needs to be some kind of leeway given to them, I think. But they've got good enough players there for sure. And some good young players as well that are getting game time. Their right and their left back, actually, have been quite impressive in the games I've watched. So I think they'll be fine. Hibs, not so much. I think David Gray might go back to writing his own songs again, because they're all over the shop. But they got a vote of confidence, so good luck to them.
The dreaded vote of confidence, and I actually think, I don't wish any harm on David Gray. He gave me one of the best summers of my life, Brydo, back in 2016, one of the best days. But he, it's just not working, and you can see it, and patterns tell you things, and I just think he's really struggling. He's losing cheap goals late, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, we'll catch Hibs on another day. But in terms of the Hearts situation, yeah, most would anticipate they'll get their act together and finish top 6. They're only 6 points off top 6 at this moment in time, so 2 wins gets you there. But as I say, they will need to pull their socks up sooner rather than later. And from Neil Critchley's point of view, you could debate that, playing Rangers and then Celtic in quick succession is a tough run of fixtures. Actually, it's the run of fixtures that players, fans, and I would argue coaches and managers thrive on as well. So they'll be looking forward to this one, and they'll see it as an opportunity to right some of the wrongs of their season so far. But in terms of the lineup, Celtic have been pretty consistent. We've kind of found a fairly settled side, and we make one or two tweaks in terms of the midfield three and sometimes the forward line. But by and large, the goalie and back four has remained pretty consistent. So it's Kasper Schmeichel, it's Alistair Johnston that we've covered in detail. You've got Greg Taylor and Baye being the wee outlier in terms of what they do, and I'll get your thoughts in a second. And then you've got, at full strength, I would say, Carter Vickers and probably Trusty. But you can let me know, do you think Scales comes back in? CCV's had his break. And what about that left-back slot?
Yeah, so if we looked at the Trusty Scales thing, I've kind of been of that thought that Scales has turned up and he's not done anything overly bad or wrong or anything like that, and therefore maybe the criticism that as part of that as well, we've all done it at some stage. We've kind of kept saying that if we're to improve, he can't be your centre half, and he's answered questions in a number of games and played well. Atalanta away was him and Trusty, right? Someone Trusty, yeah, Trusty and Scales, wasn't it? But anyway, Scales has performed, and when Trusty got the nod for the Leipzig game, I thought, oh, right, okay. That's obviously what the manager's going for. Maybe it's harsh on him, but do you know what? They're not running a boys' club where the parents are moaning about their boy not getting a game. They're playing Trusty because he thinks Trusty's the best player to play beside him. And to be fair, he answered a few critics, including myself. We don't criticise just for the sake of criticising. We're criticising from what we see. And I know it was early, but it doesn't matter. We can only kind of talk about what we see. I thought his positional sense was bad. I thought his decision-making was bad. I thought his natural ability to just defend was bad in the games up until that point. But his performance was so good at that level at Leipzig, in that Leipzig game and Atalanta, that you can't overlook it anymore. And therefore, I think it's Trusty and Carter Vickers, and they've got to try and build that partnership. The left-back thing is just a weird one, because we think Baye comes in and we think, right, okay, he plays really well. We're all excited about him playing. Then we hear some rumours, he might not be there after January. We don't know what to make of that, because we don't know what the deal that we've got entails. Obviously, if there's rumours like that of reports, it probably means there's something in it. Taylor, we all know, has his moments. He's fairly consistently good domestically. Champions League level, tends to get found out. Up until he helped set the goal up against Leipzig, I thought he was having an absolute shocker. And it seems to kind of got overlooked, because he then done okay. He done pretty well after doing that. That was 45 minutes of football. It was 44 minutes. He was absolutely dug meat. And then you've got, he came on a game after that. But all too often he has let us down at that level. But domestically, I don't think anybody can argue that Greg Taylor performs well. So if it's Greg Taylor tomorrow with experience and whatever else, no problem with that whatsoever. Greg Taylor has performed at a good enough level. But it's just a bit confusing for us. I don't know. There's just a question mark over it, and I don't know why there's a question mark. Why can't we just get that position settled? It's just, and even Greg Taylor's not settled in the sense, because he's got a new contract. He's not signed. So you could sign a pre-contract with somebody in January. 6-7 weeks time, he could be signed. So I just don't understand why we can't sort it properly for a reasonable period of time.
I heard Alistair Johnston talking earlier on there, and he was saying that he's been fairly relaxed over the contract situation, because he was already still going to be here for another few years. I think he was tied down already till 2027, I think. So there was no great pressure on him. But as you rightly say, we're going into December, in a week or so's time, just over a week. And Greg Taylor, as of start of January, can start talking to other teams. And I just think players are at their best when they've got that kind of stability, that kind of assurance that they're going to be in a set place for a certain amount of time. And I heard Brendan Rodgers speaking recently about saying, Greg's 27, this is potentially his last big contract. So I get all of that. And maybe he's the kind of guy that doesn't want to sign something to then just sit on the bench. Now, no player can be given assurances at a club like Celtic, but I think he's at the crossroads here. He doesn't know whether to stick or twist. Does he go for the route that makes him more financially secure? Does he go for the route that's more appealing football-wise, and where does that land? I don't know, but I think ultimately Celtic and many teams are at their best when they've got a settled back four. yeah, I don't mind Celtic making these changes in the forward positions and in the creative positions, and we'll get to them just shortly in terms of the midfield three and the front three. I really prefer us having a settled back four. It was a cornerstone of Ange's success. He got his guys and he stuck with them. And I would argue that what we're probably going to see in the next 2-3 games is a settling down in that area of the pitch as Brendan Rodgers starts to go strong with who he thinks are the 4 best options. I do think he wants to get Carter Vickers and Trusty in and settled if both stay fit, particularly CCV. I can't work out what he's going to do at left back. I was so surprised that Bailly wasn't the starter against Leipzig. There were the suggestions they might be going back to Barca early. None of that's been confirmed. Brendan Rodgers said it was news to him, so who knows? But I do think in the next couple of games we'll get an indication as to what that'll be. Well, I'll pin you on Greg Taylor for now, Brydo, and we'll go with that, and we'll see how wrong you are.
Yeah. I just think it's. I just don't know why I don't know why we've not got like that confidence to say, that's who it's going to be. But I think he'll probably put Taylor in there based on exactly what you just said there just now, mate. I think that's what he'll do.
Yeah, so looking like Kasper Schmeichel will definitely start. Then a back four along the lines of Alistair Johnston, CCV, Trusty, and then Greg Taylor. Callum McGregor will almost definitely start in front of them in the number 6. So then it's any 2 from 4. You've got Arnie Engels, Rio Hatate, Luke McCowan, and Paulo Bernardo. Who's your 2 ahead of McGregor?
I think it'll be Hatate and Engels. I know Engels has come in for a bit of stick. I don't even want to say stick really, but that seems to be the way it's coming across. There needs to be a bit of patience, the team's doing well and he's in the team the majority of the time. There was a lot of stick at the Leipzig game, and I actually thought that in most of the parts of the game he'd done some really important work, and it just seems to be like it's like, because he's the most expensive player, he should be doing more. I'm like, to perform like that, the way we performed, there's no passengers allowed. And a lot of the intricate football he was a big part of, even the wee touch for the goals and for Kuhn's goal, just things like that. I just felt like he got a bit of stick, and he has been getting more stick than I feel like he deserves. Could he be better? Yeah, but if you listen to the manager when everybody started getting a bit excited and saying, he's a miles better than Matt O'Reilly. Well, calm down. He's only played 2 or 3 games. The manager comes out and says, no, he's young. He's here to improve. I'm here to improve him. He's here because he wants to improve and play in this stage in this club. So everybody's in the right place. They're in the right spot. What we don't need is everybody to then start jumping on their back to say, he's not good enough. We'll waste £11 million. It's the same with Adam Ida. I had somebody on the phone the other day saying, he's a donkey. And not to consider last year. So just need to just relax a wee bit around it. The team's doing really well on all fronts. He's a part of that. And the only thing I will say is he needs to sort his delivery out. It's either like a 12 out of 10 level delivery or a 2 out of 10. Even just give us a couple of 7 or 8s that don't hit the first man. Just going, because it drives me insane when any professional football player hits the first man with a corner or a free kick. So the excitement around him should be that there is more to come. And we've got to trust the people we have signed, and have done the signings of late, that they're not going to spend that level of money on a player I don't think is going to be nothing short of superb for us. So it'll be him. And then Hatate, I think, has come onto a game. And when Rio Hatate plays well, Celtic ultimately are irresistible to watch. It's just when he has those wee moments in seasons where he's either injured or he just doesn't, he's not got that momentum. The games we've seen, he's certainly performing. The Leipzig, I thought he was outstanding. So, I think Hatate and Engels to try and kind of keep building that partnership up in there, because it is important that they work together. And then Engels has a couple of goals, hopefully, that will get him going. So that's my 2. But McCowan and Bernardo, I've went on record as saying how good the players that I think Bernardo is. But I just think tomorrow night it'll be the best that we've got. And I think right now still the best we've got is Hatate, Engels, with McGregor doing what he does behind them.
That's the 3 I'd be going for at this moment in time. But that's no slight on Paulo Bernardo and Luke McCowan, who I think are both really talented players. I actually think they're both unfortunate, if that's the right term, that they find themselves vying for a position in Celtic central midfield at a time when we've got such an abundance of talent there. You know, at any other time in recent years, Bernardo could have swanned in and become a starter. Luke McCowan as well, who I think's covered himself with great credit in recent times. Gypsy King, who's a good friend of the show and a big supporter, he's a massive Luke McCowan fan. He actually tipped him to come to Celtic before it was made official. He's banged the drum for a while. And he's desperate to see Luke McCowan get that start. And I can see why. You know, as I say, I don't think he's done much wrong. And I actually think Luke McCowan's probably quite keen now to shake off the tag of, oh, he's a Celtic fan and he gets it. He now just wants to be a guy who's playing for Celtic. He's a professional. He's got a job to do. And I think he's now had that bedding in period and he'll be looking to kick on. So I'm with you. I think it's Engels and Hatate. I think there's serious talent there. But at this moment in time, if any of the other two, Bernardo and McCowan, do get the nod, I'm okay with it because I think there's serious talent amongst that midfield five.
Right, sorry, mate, it's just we touched the top of the show, like 10 big games, you know, coming up. We know that the squad's going to be needed. So Bernardo and McCowan, all they've got to do, say for example they don't start tomorrow, they've got to just stay honest in their work, and then when they get that opportunity to perform, they're ready and they actually then take their opportunities. I think McCowan, like Gypsy King said, I think anytime he has come in, out of them all, he has, I think, taken the opportunity, but maybe just, he's either not been given enough time or he's just not done enough to say Rio Hatate level, Luke McCowan level. You know, I don't think he's done enough to do that, or Engels for that matter. But he can only keep doing what he's doing. He'll get his chance to start the game, and you might just find that he gets a run of games at some point. And if he does, I don't doubt, I'm the same. I think he will perform for us. I don't think he's that. If he was to start tomorrow night, would I be worried? Absolutely not. But the question mark would then be, why is he starting over the other players? I just don't think he's quite at that bit yet. But that doesn't mean to say he's not going to play a vastly important role in the season throughout. The same as Bernardo, he became an important player at the end last season, more at the end of last season. This is the time of season last year we were struggling a wee bit. If we remember right, we were behind in the league, and you know, and this is around the fixtures we have now got. We've had the easier fixtures so far compared to everybody else. We've not been to Pittodrie, we've not been to Tynecastle, we've not been to Ibrox. Now this is our stage, and to me this is where Celtic come alive. But we come alive because we have options, and the options are likes in that position, Bernardo and McCowan. So everybody's right that I talk about Bernardo and McCowan in particular, but they will be vastly, it's hugely important. It's just whether it's starting games at this minute in time.
Yeah, and I think there's an example staring us in the face, Brydo, about guys that sometimes just take a bit of time to settle at a club like Celtic, and it's Nicholas Kuhn. He's the absolute star man of the season so far. He absolutely should and will start against Hearts, all going well. But we all remember when he came in January, February time, and I hark back to this because you and I were at Easter Road the night Adam Ida scored the 2 penalties. Nicholas Kuhn looked like a guy who'd barely played football, let alone a guy who was going to tear it up this time around. So I think just on that note, I would always urge a bit of caution for Arne Engels, who I think Sanfran makes the point. His numbers have still been impressive, but I think the best is yet to come. But whether it's Arne Engels or Luke McCowan or any of these guys who have found themselves at Celtic, Trusty, how many of us wrote off Trusty just a number of weeks ago? I think sometimes some guys hit the ground running, which is brilliant. Some guys need a bit more time, and I think these guys deserve a wee bit of patience. They've shown enough in glimpses. I think we need to give them that wee bit of extra time to see what they can produce. But either the front three that have been so electric for us all season has been Nicholas Kuhn, it's been Daizen Maeda, and it's been Kyogo Furuhashi. There's no reason to change that tomorrow, or is there?
No, definitely not. I don't think Hearts. It's a great surface to play football on. It's not like we need to think of playing either, you know, the Kilmarnock game, for example, that type of thing. If you're a back four and you're facing those three, it's like I think you need to get your head screwed back on at the end of the game, because the movement of them is just incredible, and you really need some people with the proper experience to talk to each other all the time. But Hugo he's the best player I think I've seen, certainly since Larson anyway, in particular regarding his movement. He makes 2 or 3 moves, and one before the ball's cut back, the defender has no idea where he is. and he's got a good record against Hearts as well. So I just think that I thought at the end of last season, Kyogo cut a kind of forlorn figure sometimes. And I actually thought maybe he's, with the model we've got, he's 28, 29 years of age. He does obviously come in, done that. And we're going to maybe, the Man City rumour came round, are we going to cash in? Is he going to be there? I'm so glad that that's not became an actual thing. I'm so glad, because as fans going to the games, when you see his name on the team sheet, and Maeda for it, for his work rate, but Kun and Kyogo, just for what they produce with the ball, it's so good to watch. I mean, it's so good to watch, and it must be a nightmare for defenders. And I just think that's essentially what gets us over the line a lot of the games. Kamala, Kun, that movement away from the, and then touch it, finish it, and away you go. That got us over the line in that game, and that's ultimately how you win leagues. So those three, vastly, improved Kun, like you said. But the only issue is, season-long wise, if something happens to either of those wingers, I think we're really weak after that. And we need to sort that maybe in January.
Do you know what? I heard Brendan Rodgers speaking last week, and he said that his priority would be a winger, and that if we get another winger in, it would allow him to confidently have Maeda as backup striker. He said it's very hard to keep three top strikers, Kyogo, Adamida and another. How do you bring in somebody to be that third guy? Brendan Rodgers is quite confident that Maeda can be that. But if that has to happen, then you weaken yourself in the wide areas where Maeda kind of have been so prominent. And I think on that note, he's keen to bring in a wide player as cover, so that we might see some moves there in January. But the other thing that just kind of came to mind as you were talking about Kyogo and the suggestions that he might have gone to a Man City or otherwise, whether it's Kyogo or any number of players to this team, I think there are so many. For we guys, it'll be the heroes. The kids growing up watching Celtic just now, there'll be so many heroes in the team. As adults, you can say they're heroes of ours or favourites, whatever term you want to use. But some guys will just love Carter Vickers. Some guys will be all over Alistair Johnston for what he does. Callum McGregor as a skipper will be a favourite. But guys like Nicholas Kuhn get you excited. Kyogo gets you excited. Arne Engels gets you excited. Rio Hotati. There's heroes all over this side. And I think that's what makes it so challenging for certainly everyone that Celtic come up against domestically, but also in Europe, because it used to be you could have a glance and say, do you know what? There's 4 or 5 top players on this Celtic side, the rest not so much. I think we're a team littered with really talented players, and actually it starts with your goalie. I think Kasper Schmeichel's so good, so important to this Celtic side, and I think there's real stars at every position across the board in front of him. Brydo, before I come to you for your scoreline prediction, if you're watching the live, whether it's Gaza, San Fran Celtic, Gypsy King, Pat McLaughlin, San Fran, who I might have said already, give us your scoreline predictions and we'll see if they match up with what myself and Brydo are thinking. Brydo, just before I do ask you, last question, we've obviously got a massive game on Wednesday against Club Brugge, a game that if we do win at Celtic Park would almost definitely secure us a top 24 place in this new Champions League format. How much does that come into the manager's thinking? So I think it was Pat McLaughlin early in the piece who said that he would go for the same team over the next 2 games. He's put his team up, which is very similar to ours, and he'd be going with that tomorrow night against Hearts and against Club Brugge on Wednesday, i.e. he thinks that's our strongest side. Do you think the manager tries to find consistency between now and midweek? Does he rest some guys to make sure they're fully firing? How do you think Brendan Rodgers approaches it?
I think he plays. I think he plays his best 11 in both games, and that best 11 would obviously be, I think anyway, the one that we've suggested. I think he knows how difficult a place Tynecastle is atmosphere-wise. The only thing I would say is the difference is the in-game decisions. Celtic can be so good that they can actually then make changes early and then actually rest players like after, so after 60 minutes, can we get a couple of goals up and maybe then take players off? Whereas maybe at other parts of last season we couldn't do that. We were desperate for the points and we just couldn't. We didn't have the trust in the squad as such at that time. I think there's a trust in the squad. We've just, we've looked at Taylor and Taylor and Bhoys. We've looked at Trusty and Scales. That might have been a worry before Scales came back for Aberdeen, but he's now proven over the last season and a bit that he can do that job. So if he comes in, we're not going to panic. You've got your midfielders that we spoke about. Adamida is a player, there's question marks around him just now, just because I think he's just not got going. The Kamala game was a disaster anyway. The pitch was a mess, and it's just, he just needs I think he needs a couple of moments, and then maybe even get a start and get a couple of goals. But then we would then trust the fact that Kyogo's not starting that game and he's rested and Ida comes in. There should be trust in him because he's done it already. You know, we've seen it last year. So yeah, I think they'll start the same team. But again, it is all dependent, obviously, on the types of games. And I just think the manager gets it right and more often than not. So if he was to tweak it on Wednesday, for example, then you just got to trust it. The players that are available, I don't think many of us, like, with the exception of the wingers, maybe folk can say Kyogo and Ida, but I say the exception of the wingers, I don't think we would overly panic if it was different on Wednesday. I just think that's the trust in the squad that we've all kind of came to have, and that trust has been built upon results and performances up to this point, which have been, on the most part, despite the blip in Dortmund, been very, very, very good. So yeah, I think that would be the team I would go with on both games if that's allowed through injuries and stuff.
Yeah, just quickly on Adam Ida, you're speaking at length about him there. I really like Adam Ida, and I think, again, as football fans, we can all, get accused of being short-sighted or quite flip-flop with opinions. And there are some critics of Adam Ida at this moment in time, but you don't need to look far back at all for the body of evidence that he's a guy who can step up when required. I actually also really see him as a big game player. Not that he's, not motivated for some of the maybe run-of-the-mill fixtures. I think going to Tynecastle, though, is a game he would step up. We mentioned the game at Easter Road where he really stepped up, where he really kind of took his first bow as a Celtic player with the 2 penalties that night. He won the Scottish Cup for us. He had a huge performance against Motherwell at Fir Park. I think when the pressure's on, some guys thrive and some guys won't. And I think Adam Ida can thrive in that environment. He's had a couple of niggles. He's had to step back from the Ireland stuff over the last break there. I think he could play a part tomorrow. I don't think he starts. I think it is Kyogo. But I think if Ida comes on the surface and the atmosphere at Tynecastle, it could be right up his street. But let's see what happens. I'd ask the guys in the comments for some predictions. Good to see Holmesy here. Holmesy's gone for 3-0. Pat McLaughlin, same scoreline. San Fran, he's gone even better. He thinks 4-0 are the good guys. Brydo, where are you at? Are you seeing a few goals and a clean sheet like those lads?
Yeah, I'm seeing a clean sheet. And although I'm saying at the top of the show, I think it'll be a tough game, I still think Celtic might run out 3-0 winners. And the reason I think 3-0 is just because the way the game will go. And I think Celtic, when they settle into it, I don't think Hearts will cope with what we've got to offer. And I also don't think Hearts have got enough to hurt us in the final third. That's where they're seriously lacking. And the way they try to play should suit us, winning the ball high up the park. They try to keep possession. I think we'll win it high up the park. But it's just the venue, the 7:45 kickoff, Saturday night, just all of that adds to, there's always drama. And it worries me, that part. And when I say so, I don't think it's going to be like a St Johnstone home or something, It's going to be a tough enough, but I think they'll earn the right to play, and I think they'll go in, and the quality will come through. And that's why I think we'll get 2 or 3 goals. I'll say 3, and I genuinely just don't think we'll concede. But Hearts have got some decent players. I mean, there's no question about that. They need to put it together. I just don't think it'll be tomorrow for them.
Yeah, I'm on the very same page. My scoreline prediction is the same as Gypsy King. I think 3-1. I think there is always drama. The crowd can play their part. It's an enjoyable place to go. Certainly as a fan, it can be good fun. And as a player, I think, as I say, guys within the squad thrive on that kind of atmosphere. Gypsy King's got Hatate to score. I don't usually like to predict scorers. It's pretty tricky to do. But I'm thinking and hoping we might see an Arnie Ingles goal, which might just kickstart him over this next phase of the campaign. It would give him a huge boost. Brydo, thanks for joining us here on a Friday night. Before I sign off, just your final comments ahead of what could be a night of bedlam on Saturday at Tynecastle.
Yeah, like I said at the top of the show, it's just great to get the domestic game back after the international break again. But we've now got a proper run of games. There's no winter break and stuff either. This is really where Celtic should pull away, but it's not easy, and you've got to earn the right to play. You've got to earn the points that you get on the table. I just think that this is where we'll find out if Aberdeen have got a bit of the minerals as well over the next period, is because they're not going to have easy games. We also go up there on the 4th of December. So it's a proper period for us to knuckle down, do what we do best, and then watch the rest of them hopefully slip away and we get a comfortable lead, and that should then hopefully help us go. So and it starts tomorrow night. And it's I think it's a great fixture for Scottish football. It's one of them, it's like Aberdeen Rangers games as well. I think it's games that we should. The atmosphere is normally electric. There's no love lost, obviously, and spectacle-wise, hopefully it's great. But hopefully it's just one that we come back with the points. But I'm kind of hoping for a really good performance as well as getting the points. And I don't see why we shouldn't be expecting that. I think the team have done fantastically well so far. So 3-0 up the road. Few pints before and after.
Get your priorities right. And interestingly, Brydo, I mean, it's very rare to see all 6 Premiership games on the same day, but that's what we've got. You've got Rangers up against Dundee United. I was going to say it won't be easy. Nothing's easy for Rangers right now, so it'll be interesting to see if anything happens there. Aberdeen are away to St Mirren, 3 o'clock kickoff. I would anticipate Aberdeen getting the 3 points there. And even if only temporarily, it puts the pressure on Celtic. It means you're going into the game in second place, and there's that onus on you to do your job. So let's see how it plays out, but also lots of reasons for optimism. Brydo, thanks for joining us here on a Friday night. Thanks to everyone who continues to join us on the live show here on YouTube. Remember, if you want to comment on any pre or post-match live shows, you do need to be a member. So check out our homepage on YouTube for details how you can do so. A quick reminder as well, if you are listening to the Celtic Exchange podcast and want to enjoy ad-free and advanced listening, visit the celticexchange.supercast.com to sign up for any of the programmes there, and you'll automatically be entered into a draw to win a Celtic shirt, home shirt, away shirt, or third choice shirt between now and next Sunday. We'll do a draw next Sunday for that. But in the meantime, for myself and Brydo, thanks for tuning in. We'll be back on Sunday with the post-match show for this one, hopefully talk about another big Celtic win. Enjoy the rest of the weekend. We'll see you then.